Hey, loves, you're listening to the Be Well Beautiful People podcast, the show that inspires you to live your best joy filled life by centering healing and liberation above all. I'm your host, Damara West, and it is a privilege to be in sacred space with you all. For today's episode, we're honored to welcome the amazing Amanda Sweet, the Creative Fairy Godmother, who is a global speaker, community leader, and event activist dedicated to helping people make friends, get fly, and save the world through community. She is the founder of the ReVamp, a sustainable fashion initiative that transforms clothing swaps into joyful, community driven events supporting shelters across Detroit, with more than 51,000 pounds of clothing shared to date. Amanda also supports entrepreneurs and creatives through her work at Bamboo Royal Oak and hosts the Let's Glow show, spotlighting creative leaders and their stories. Crowned Miss Voluptuous America, Amanda has used her platform to champion self love, body confidence, and collective care. At the heart of everything she does is a deep belief in creativity as a path to connection and belonging. In today's episode, we will explore what it means to anchor yourself, how self love becomes a daily practice, and how self confidence grows when you live in alignment with who you truly are. But before we do, let's ground in this quote by Elizabeth Gilbert. A creative life is an amplified life. It's a bigger life, a happier life, an expanded life, and a hell of a lot more interesting life. Amanda, welcome to the show, Queen.
Thank you so much. I was like, she's reading the whole thing, but also I was like, are you talking about me?
Right? I know sometimes we forget like how fabulous we are, right?
Yes.
And particularly when we're just out there like changing the world and slaying things like you do day in and day out.
The fashion demons.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So speaking of fashion demons, how do we like pull this off?
I know. I was like, we were talking about the colorways, like got a little emerald green in here, some cream. Like, yes, we're playing, and you were on the Let's Glow show recently, and we did the same thing. We definitely were vibing in the outfits. It
Oh
was
my
vibing.
gosh. And I feel like every time I see you, we are a vibe. I feel like there's just synergy. And it goes to
hmm
show you that like relationships, aligned relationships in particular, there's nothing like them, right? And when we show up in spaces, we never know how we're going to be alike in those spaces because our energy is definitely matching. So
Yes.
Queen, let's start with you telling us about your journey. You have had such an amazing journey to get to this place in your life. What ultimately brought you here to this
Mm.
very moment?
Oh my gosh, so many things. The first thing that came to mind was just the next right step every time. And
Mm,
that is not defined by anything other than seeking my most true self, my most authentic self, the me that I desire and see in my third eye, and just
mm,
the word of my word of the year is devoted. So a devoted attention to seeking and becoming that version of myself. And we've talked before, we've talked on the Let's Glow show about our journeys, and it's been a twisty, windy, weird path that's taken many different vehicles, but like every single time, not every single time, but in my most aligned time and beyond that, it's always the question of like, what's going to make me happy right now? What's going to fuel me? What's going to help me become the version that I see, feel, and need to become? So there's
mm.
there's so much to tell. So
Yeah,
much to
absolutely.
tell.
And I'm sure we're going to get into like the nitty gritty and more of the details around that. But I want to start with this word devotion. Like, what
Yes.
a beautiful, sacred word. And, when you said it, it hit me right here in my solar plexus. And what came to me is that devotion is so important because we're always becoming. And so the Amanda that we know right now in the full beautiful state that you're in, if we're talking about anchoring ourselves in that word devotion time and time again, a year from now, you're going to manifest into something a little bit different than even
Oh,
what you are
very.
right now.
Yes. I feel a consistent call to evolve. Like I think it's always been in there, but as my most adult self it's like a constant search for like, what else can I uncover? Who else can I become? How can I take all the things that I'm learning from the amazing people surrounding me and become a better version of myself? And the reason I'm using the word devotion is because I'm devoted not only to becoming my most full self and living the most colorful, beautiful, magical life that I can, but I feel like my word last year was determined. And
Mm,
the year before that, it was another D word, but it was very masculine. It was this
yeah.
like brute force energy, as my friend Christina Fair says and calls it. It's like brute force. And when I was
Mm,
thinking about my word for this year, it was much more, I wanted to feel more intuitive. I'm a very intuitive person, but I wanted to honor that piece of me instead of being like, "Ugh, intuition doesn't build business strategy," but it does.
Oh my gosh,
But in
much
business
more than
structure,
any. Much more than
yes,
any actual book
yes,
strategy. Come on, can we
yes.
like we can we say that again for the people in the back, sis?
Yes, I think like it is frowned upon in business to be intuitive and follow your gut and follow your heart and your instincts. But in reality, that's what all of us are doing. And I just want to create space
Mm,
to honor that. So that's why it's been devotion for this year because I wanted to feel spiritual. I wanted to feel ethereal. I wanted to feel beyond me, ancestral, future focus. So I'm building a really big business and it's going to take a
mhm.
lot of big spiritual energy to get there.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, last time I was with you and we had coffee and you told me about all of the things, I was like, yes, 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 and yes. And usually for people that are being led with the determination from one of your words, and now with devotion,
Yes.
particularly related to this divine feminine, you didn't name it that, but that's exactly what we're talking about,
Yep.
essentially. Of course, you're going to be striving for big because
Sure.
there's always more. There's always more for you to become. There's always more for us to do. And one of the words that I've been toying with a lot lately is impermanence. And if we can really embrace impermanence and knowing that who we are today and what we're doing today, and even the people in our lives today may change and
Yes.
probably inevitably will, it actually helps us to intuitively respond to all the ways God, universe, source, creator is calling us to step more in to the very things that life is rooted in rich. Like this life is
Hmm.
rich. You
Hmm.
said it. It's rich. It's meant to be lived out loud, lived in
Yes.
color. And how you do that today is going to look totally different from how you do it in a year or 2 years from now as you
Or even
continue to take.
tomorrow.
Come
That
on
is the
now.
thing. Like we briefly talked about my partnership with my husband, and during recording, it's his birthday, and yesterday was my birthday. So at time of recording, we're a day out from my birthday, and
Mm,
you were talking about our relationship with each other, and we are the word impertinence. I've probably heard it in the ethos, but I've never heard it directly. But that is
mm,
exactly where we're always like, what can we do a little bit better? How can I be a better partner to you? How can I love you better? How can I show
mm,
up better? Where am I failing? Where am I lacking? Where am I great? And we're constantly asking each other little questions like that. So you were talking about us being together and feeling the energy, like
mm,
behind closed doors with the cameras off, lights off, nobody's watching. We're like, what are you grateful for? What did I
mm.
do? What could I do better today? What could I do better tomorrow? And that
Yeah.
impertinence piece is a way of we live in that. And I think
Yes.
before I realized that change was inevitable and required, I was stuck.
Yeah.
I feel like I was like, what am I supposed to be when I grow up? I can remember like a 21-year-old version of myself and college age self thinking like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I can't choose. I'm not picking the right major. I'm not picking the right career path. I'm not picking the right partner and feeling stuck. Like if I
Mhm.
can't pick it today, or whatever I pick today is going to be me forever. Like, am I going to make the wrong choice? And that will create so much pause in everything that you do if you think that the choice that you make today is like set in stone. Even stones change.
Come on
Even
now.
stones change. And I think as I start to realize that we have to be like water, this was something I said a lot for a while. We have
Mm,
to be like water, but water has multiple states. Water is a liquid, water is a solid, it is a gas, it is life-giving, it is life-taking. It
mm.
comes from the ground, it comes from the sky. It is what it needs to be in the environments that it's in. So if even water can change, like we have to realize that change is a requirement of growth. And
Yes.
whatever's out there that's like, you have to pick the thing, and it's the education system. You have to pick your major to pick your university. You have to pick the right husband, the right wife, the right partner. You have to be the right amount of riches and the right skin tone and
Mm,
the right
mm.
gender identity. Like all of those like right and wrong things are just going to keep you stuck because it's not real. It's
Girl, you
constructed.
just gave us so much richness. You just dropped so many gems. And not to mention this questioning, this constant questioning, so that we don't get too comfortable, not only within ourselves, but get too comfortable in our relationships, right? In this sense that we just know, or that somebody should just know, and so I'm not surprised that you and your husband have this process because where we started before we actually jumped to this interview was me singing your praises about the love that is very, very clear. And that if anybody gets the gift of witnessing you all, this is not performative. We know the difference between when people are performing and when real love is present. And it's very clear that real love is present. And if we're talking about loving in action, it requires us to constantly be in discovery of the people in our lives and not assuming that we know all the things. And so that was one. Like, so if y'all don't walk away with anything else, please walk away with that. I talk about a lot of these things in my new upcoming book, Love Will Liberate, including the divine feminine and the sacred masculine. But then also, I just love how you talked about water, right? And so often when we talk about water, we only talk about it in its flow state. But the reality is that when it's frozen, there is no flow.
Mm-mm.
When it's frozen, all we get is stillness, essentially, right?
Mhm.
And that is a very important part of life, that we're able to embrace all of the shifting tides that come along with our evolution. And I really appreciate that you're naming that even in the midst of this robust vision that you have, and it's a big one, and we're going to talk about it in detail in just a little bit, that even that can change.
Yes.
But if we latch too tightly onto ideas that we have and we think that this is it, then we will actually hinder our ability from seeing and hearing all the ways in which that God, universe, source, creator is speaking to help to get us to exactly where we're going. Because sometimes when we're called to do something, we're not called to do it for the outcome of the thing. We're actually called to do it for the outcome of our evolution.
Mm. Yes.
Sister, sister.
Yes.
We can say so much more. So talk to us about this vision. You have a big ass vision,
Yes.
queen,
It's
including a
big.
magazine. OMG.
Which is getting delivered in the mail tomorrow, our first issue. Like when we talked, it was an idea. When we talked, it was an idea. And here's the thing, like I know I have the duality within me of having big vision and also the small baby steps that's required and also the fear that comes with all of that and
Mm,
also like the action that comes with all of that. So when I said magazine years ago. Years ago. I worked at a publication. It was even years before that,
mm,
But I think to rewind it back, I host a clothing swap festival every single quarter. It didn't start as a festival, it started as a little pop-up swap in the backyard of a salon. 5 people showed up. And our
wow.
last event, we had over 500 people. And we changed the name. We added the word festival. We added more volunteers. We added more positions. We added more. We just kept evolving to your point. I could not see the revamp clothing swap festival as it is now at all back
Mm,
when I was dreaming about it.
yeah.
And as it unfolds and as I become the person and the leader that I'm supposed to be for that space, there's always another ledge to grab on. So the magazine is the next thing.
Mm,
After that is workforce, like creating jobs from this. Right now, we're volunteer powered, and I took a pay cut and I
mm,
took a leap off from my day job to really lean in and build this and turn it into what it's supposed to be. And then down the line, I see retail, I see thrift store, I see models all over the country in different cities and different spaces across Michigan, across the country, across the globe. There is a huge epidemic of over shopping. There is a
mhm,
huge challenge that we have with the sustainability of our products, in which they are not,
mhm,
and the consumption that we are taught and pushed to become. But for me, really, it started as like, I'm just a party girl that wants to look
mm,
cute. I need some friends. I didn't have any friends at the time. I'd moved to a new state, new city, new area, left my whole community behind, and I had too much stuff because I got a shopping problem, but I made the solution. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but like the big vision is to create jobs in an industry that people are passionate about and that can actually do something to help the planet and each other. And I think it's
Yeah.
possible. And I'm seeing that it's possible, but it's long time ago, first ever swap, me before the swap. Mm-mm. I have no idea how it was going to become who I was supposed to become. This was not the
Yeah.
way.
And the reality is that you did it because you had a nudge to do it, right? And I think that so oftentimes if we really got a glimpse of what the big vision is, it would probably be too overwhelming for us, right? What started off with five to really address a solution for yourself ended up
Mhm.
being so much bigger than you. And actually, I see your body of work as being a framework for how sustainable fashion can actually be carried out across the country and maybe even beyond that, right? But who knew? And you talked about the fear, and I think this is so important because a lot of times people believe that fear has to be subsided before we can actually act, but the reality is that usually the things that scare us are the very things that we're actually supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be afraid and we're supposed to do it anyway.
Mhm.
And so talk to me about though how you were able to do it in spite of the fear, because so oftentimes people won't even act because they're too afraid.
So this is a funny tip that I have, and it's not necessarily particular, but it is particular to my industry because I host events. This is my trick. I'm telling you guys all this is my trick. I
Mm.
just post the event date on the internet. I'm like, I post the event date. Hey, we're gonna do this thing. And even at the first swap, I will say I had the venue, I had the space, I had the basic idea of what I was gonna do, but I didn't know how I was gonna do it. And
Mhm.
it's the same thing as this long lifetime body of work to you becoming your ultimate self, just truncated into a couple weeks or a couple of months or a quarter. We do it every quarter. So every quarter, I am genuinely scared to say, "Hey, we're going to do this
Mm.
thing," because most of the time we don't have the venue locked in. And once upon a time, we were not getting the venue locked in until weeks out before
Wow.
the event. But we were posting it, we were pushing it, we were assuming the most positive intent of our work. And I see other artists around me and creatives around me and business owners around me that do similar things. They're like, a book is coming 2026. Behind closed doors, they're like, I guess I gotta write this book now. I guess I gotta
Mm.
start this business now. And taking this big, huge vision and making it bite size is just that verbal commitment to people and then showing up for it. Just
So
showing
let's
up for
talk
the thing.
about this. I mean, what you just named, sis, and thank you for giving us the inside track because a lot of
Mhm.
times what people don't see are all the things that happen behind the scenes, right? They get to see the finished product.
Yes.
They get to see the models walking across the stage. They get to see all of your beautiful imagery, and you have some beautiful imagery out there to tell the revamped story,
Mhm.
right? But who would have thunk that you were putting this out in the world and you didn't even have all of these elements at play. But the co creation process tells us this that if we want better and if we want to do something, we have to actually do it.
Right.
And what you're telling us is that you actually operated in an optimal co-creation space and you trusted time and time again that you would be supported. So you
Yes.
didn't focus on the fact that it was 2 weeks out. You weren't letting any of that negative energy. You weren't sitting in shit. You weren't sitting in your fear.
Sometimes I
Yes,
do.
these things.
Sometimes I do. I said sometimes
Well,
I
let's be
do.
real. I mean, you're human.
Yes.
You're human. I mean,
Yeah.
tis to be human.
Yes.
But you didn't sit in it.
There we go.
But you didn't sit in it. You felt it, you honored it, and you kept it fucking moving. Let's just
Yep.
and trusted in the process that you were going to be taken care of. And every single time you were taken care of, weren't you?
Yep. And I learned and I grew and we fixed the problems as they arose, and I learned and I grew. And it behind the scenes, it's you just got to make the form. You just got to send the email. You just got to fill out the thing. You just got to make the ask. You just got like it's all it's there is a TikTok creator and her name is escaping me, but I can see her face and she goes, "You a star, sis." I don't know if you know
Mm.
who she is, but she always starts her videos, "You a star, sis." And she posted a video the other day and it was like brick by brick. You build your castle brick by brick. And that sat in my spirit. I'm still thinking about that video. It was like 3 seconds, brick by brick. And it's
Mm.
literally send an email, post the flyer, make the flyer. It's so much more like just down to the elements of doing the next most important thing and just do the next thing. Like I can't think myself into building a multi-city, multi-thousand person festival, but I can keep sending the email and I can keep making
Mm.
the form and I can keep asking people to volunteer and keep asking people to attend. And every time I show up for that, people will build trust in my ability to generate something out of nothing and then attend or participate or purchase or buy or subscribe or whatever that is. But I think it's that element, and you know this by writing a book and building a business. It's just sitting down and writing the pages, sitting down
Mm.
and doing the edit, doing the red line, even if you don't want to.
Come
Nobody
on.
wants to do it. We don't feel like doing editing. We don't,
We
you know
just
what
want
I
to
mean?
do the work.
We
Like,
want to
let's
do
be
the
real. We
work.
just want to show
Yes.
up and do the work.
Our work, the work that we want to do. But the thing on the other side of that is you're also doing work that you don't want to do until you have the means to pay somebody else to do it.
Come,
How are you
come.
going to get the means to pay somebody to do it? To do it until you earn the dollars to hire somebody else. So it's the all that stuff that I don't feel like doing it. Oh, I don't feel I'm literally feeling that today. I'm like, I don't feel like doing this, but we have to just okay, now it's
Look how
time.
you showed up in the energy of you don't feel like doing it. Okay, honey. If you showing up with it looking like this, I don't feel like doing it. Like you are showing the world what it looks like to do it anyway. And one of the things that we have to ask ourselves often is, do I really want this? Because if you really want something, then you're going to put it out there and you're going to be celebrating when those 5 people show up because those 5 people ended up being 500 for you. But there has to be a jump off point. And so oftentimes we're waiting for things to just show up in our sphere. But God, universe, source, creator doesn't work that way. God, universe,
Mhm.
source, creator is saying, I'm here and I'm waiting on you. When you move, I like that song by Ludacris, When I
Yes.
Move, You Move.
Just
Because
like that.
spirit, right? Because spirit works exactly the same
Yes.
way.
Yes.
And I love that time and time again, as you've shown up for yourself, spirit has come through for you because we can't get more than we're willing to put in for ourselves.
There we go.
And you've put the work in. But what I want to also talk about, sis, is not just the work that you've done in terms of the action that you've taken. I want to talk about the spirit by which that you operate in. Because every time I see you and every time I hear your name spoken in rooms where you're not present, people are singing your praises. And it's not just about the ReVamp Clothing Festival. They're singing your praises because it's you. You show up with heart everywhere you go and people can feel it. So let's talk about how your spirit work has primed you for the beautiful physical work that you've been birthing in the world.
Mm. Well, thank you so much for saying that. And it's like here's the part. It's I'm just the girl. We're all just the girl, but like I've been in spaces where being just a girl was not enough or the wrong version or the wrong person, or I've been in spaces where I've been bullied or micromanaged or talked down to. I've been looked as the black sheep. I was on drug and alcohol probation at 11 years old. So like just like going to AA at 12 years old and being surrounded by people who were not only age diverse but gender diverse, experience life diverse, like my worldview is so much bigger than my hometown. And I think that
Mm.
is such a blessing. Like, I'm so grateful that I fucked up early. I'm so
Come on.
grateful that as a child, I was like, I hate myself enough to put myself through this. And then my family, my parents supported me because they love me, they care for me. And also, like, as a minor, a parent has to go to AA with you. So,
Mm,
like, being in spaces like that and then just taking the next step in the world, I just know that there's only love. Love is the only answer,
mm,
and every other answer is just going to take you to a dead end.
yeah.
And so I think like every version of me that I've ever been and become and am becoming only thrives when I am giving and receiving love. And I told you about this a while ago. I did a deathbed meditation
Hmm.
and I talked to my elder self and I asked her like what was the answer to my life's mission? Where's the money gonna come from? What do I have to do? Tell
Hmm.
me the path. What are the rules? It was three things. It was love, play, and community.
Mm,
And I realized that when I operate that way, doesn't matter what I'm doing, whether I'm at my day job, my night job, my side gig, with my parents, with my friends, with my partner, if I operate that way, I will win the most. I will win the
mm,
most. And guess what? You will also win the most. If we're playing, we're creating. And
yeah.
I think that the best businesses, ideas, partnerships I've ever had starts with play. Oh, we're vibing. I love this. I love you. I have endless love for you. And I just met you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start to play. Let's play. We're going to play.
Hmm.
We're going to create. We're going to vibe. Something's going to happen. And then we bring our communities into it. And next thing you know, we're changing the world.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I
So
don't
you
say
know
that
what?
lightly.
So, Queen, I literally got chills when you said love, play, community, and I feel like that's the title of your book. Just saying. I don't know if that's the case, but I can't help it,
Accept
right? You
it.
already know I'm always like cooking some shit up,
Yes.
right? I feel like we got to cook that up, Amanda.
I love
The
that.
other thing that I think is so powerful that you just said is that we all operate best when our hearts are open.
Hmm.
And it reminds me of this scene in Eat, Pray, Love where, Richard says to Elizabeth Gilbert, you've got the capacity to love the whole world. And when we can do the work of healing to the point that we love ourselves so radically that we show up with love in every space we go, we can't actually help but to be in a winning position because love is actually the crux for intuition. It's the crux
Hmm.
for play. It's the crux for community. This is actually in part the inspiration behind my book, Love Will Liberate, because the relationship that we have with love becomes the most important relationship ever. And it actually is the thing that helps us to experience life in the most robust ways, including living out our multiple purposes. You notice I didn't say purpose because
Yes.
none of us were actually meant to do just one damn
No.
thing. We were meant to do a multitude of things, but we have to do the work to discover thyself enough, to love thyself enough, so that we can love the world enough, so that we can show up in ways that we were called to.
Amen.
Girl.
Amen. It's
So,
it's so good.
oh my
Sorry.
God, no, no, no. I didn't mean to cut you off, please.
Like, and you're talking about all of these versions of yourself, and I remember being a young person and like remember the self-hatred talk. I was taught that. I was born with it. I heard it around me. My family has come from a lot of trauma, and so it's ingrained in my DNA, but also in our household. And so,
Mm,
like, I remember being very young and having language in my mind of like, ah, I hate this, I hate that, right? And I
mhm.
remember when I had that deep, and I don't know how deep we can go on the show or how
Oh, we
whatever
can go,
we.
listen, we can go
Okay,
as deep as we want, as deep as you want to.
so, trigger warning, we're talking about abuse and abortion. After I left my second abusive partner, I found out that I was pregnant by him. And I was drinking every other day. I dropped out of school. I moved back home and I finally got the energy and the courage to break it off with him. And then I found out I was pregnant. And
Mm,
in the moment of deciding and choosing myself in that experience and choosing to have an abortion, I had this like, it was a crossroads. It was a literal, like, not only a spiritual, but like a physical crossroads where if I'm going to choose my life, I have to live a life of value.
mm,
And I remember the first time I ever said I love myself. I looked in the mirror and I said, it's so shaky, so shitty, so quiet, so ugly. And that was the first thing. And I asked myself, like, what is the one thing that I could do right now that would bring me joy? I had been in abusive relationships since I was like 14 years old. So it was 14 to 21. I was a child. I was
Mm-hmm.
mentally a child.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I want to take an acting class. I want to be an actress. I took an acting class. And
Mm-hmm.
there I learned how people think on paper, how people like talk about and process emotions and story and arc, and pretended to be somebody that was confident and somebody that was like somebody that loved themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until I
Mm-hmm.
believed it. But I became so many versions of people in that experience. And I worked with a director. I don't, have I ever told you the story about the first?
No, and I'm so grateful for the gift of it. I'm
So
so grateful.
I started doing stage plays and it was so much fun. I was doing them at school. I went back to school. I joined the drama club and I was doing media communications and I was acting out in the community, and I started hearing about plus size modeling. So I started doing runway and
Mhm.
modeling. And so that's a little bit about how my creative arc started in the city of Detroit. But I remember doing a stage play at my school, and
Mhm.
I was the love interest of the main character. And the lead character was a young man who was had never been kissed and was also out and gay and
Mm.
had no interest in women whatsoever. And we had to
Mhm.
practice our first kiss on stage in practice. And it was so awkward for everybody. It was awkward for everybody, but specifically us two. And it was like two rocks touching. We were like, he was like, y'all are
Mm.
married. You guys have been married for 15 years. Like, you need to act like you love each other. And we kept practicing it, and it was still just like, right?
Mm.
And after so many practices of that, we're coming up on the show, and he's like, you guys really need to bring the chemistry. You need to do something. We need to figure it out. And we had a one-on-one with the director, and he said, find something to love about
Mm.
each other. I don't care what it is. And he was talking from a stage play, but he's like, I don't care what it is. It could be your hair, it could be their teeth, it could be the way they talk to their friends, it could be the way they dress. I don't care what it is, but find something to love because we need to get this show on the road. But that has never left me.
Mm.
Me as the human heard that from God's mouth to my ears through that conduit and that experience. And and I do now have the capacity to love every single person that I meet
Yeah.
because there is something to love. There is always
Mm.
something to love. Long story short.
Wow. So love is the act of love is a spiritual practice. And I'm so grateful that you had that moment before you even entered into theatrical spaces, before you even
Oh,
knew you wanted to. I'm so
yes.
glad that you listened to yourself and you knew that for whatever reason, shaking your way through voice cracking, not believing the words that you spoke were going to be pivotal in bringing you to this very moment.
Hmm.
And, the theater and the arts in general, for those of you listening who don't know this, have the power to help us to find ourselves.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And there's all this research that shows that the arts do this. Why? Because the arts have the ability to ignite emotional parts of ourselves that other things can't. Even dealing in right brain, which, as we know, is rooted in creativity, helps us to tap into parts of ourselves that nothing else can.
Mhm.
And who would have thunk that it would have brought you here?
Oh,
And so
not me.
now when I witness you, and I've said this to you on several occasions, like you are fly, you are uniquely you. You do show up with this authentic identity. And I don't know anybody else that could do what you do because they're not supposed to. There's only one Amanda Sweet. And so for those people who are listening and saying, oh, I hear all that, self-love is just so hard to come by. I've never been able to achieve it. What do you have to say to people that have struggled with loving themselves and stepping into their authentic identity? Because those two things are not separate.
No.
The extent to which we love ourselves is the extent to which we can actually live out loud, unapologetically, in spite of the way that the world may see us.
Yes. This is a long relationship in progress, baby. Your relationship to yourself is the one and only relationship that matters and counts because everything is reflected after that. And just like any other relationship, yes, I can love you as a human to human, spirit to spirit, energy to energy the second I meet you. But relationships take work and it takes time to build real trust. And I would say you're not going to marry the first person you meet. You're not going to just marry them and go into lifelong commitment with them. So if you are out of touch with yourself, date yourself first. Date
Mm,
yourself first. I remember for the first year I was single out of those two relationships, I would take myself to the movies once a week. And
yes.
my mom would always tease me and she's like, "Why are you going to the movies by yourself?" And she'd be like, and sometimes she would come with me, like, "Can I come with you?" But it was the act of making a commitment to myself and then showing up for it and not flaking on myself and proving to myself that I could do the thing that I promised myself, even if that is going to the gym, go making a commitment, whatever those commitments are. If you make a commitment to yourself and you flake on yourself, you think you're going to trust yourself, just like a
Come
date,
on.
just like a boyfriend, just like a girlfriend, just like a partner. If they flake on you enough times, you're going to be like, "I don't trust them." You think you don't already
Mm,
have that same dynamic with yourself? It doesn't just become love. You have to build that relationship, build the trust over time. So I dated myself a lot. There's a poem on YouTube, I'll find it. And I was listening to that obsessively, and it was about transforming loneliness and how
mm,
to go places by yourself. It's a beautiful poem. I'll find it so that you have the link. But it's a poem of ideas, the things that you could do by yourself. And I
yeah.
would try to do one or two of those things. It was like go to a coffee shop, eat a meal by yourself in public, write a poem in the park, like little, easy, free, attainable things. But doing that from never showing up for yourself and then doing those small actions like going for a coffee and staying in the coffee shop and not sitting on your phone and hiding in your car and doing it, you know what I mean? Doing it
Yes.
like that is a trust act. It's a trust fall. It's proving that you have the commitment to show up for yourself. And then you compound on that.
Oh
It's
my
just like
gosh.
going to the gym. You're not going to deadlift 250 pounds the first time you walk into the gym. Same way you're not going to be able to trust fall into yourself and wear anything, be everything, do all your dreams come true on the first try. It's baby steps, baby, tiny, itsy bitsy little steps. That's my advice.
Oh my gosh. So you gave us so much life in that response. And I can't wait to see this poem and so that we can give that to the world as well. I want to key in on a couple of different things, particularly around this co-creation process. Earlier, we talked about the love of your life, your partner. You are the love of your life first. And then he came to match the love that you so intentionally curated through all these practices. In my book, I have an entire chapter, a big chapter, 3 sections actually on self love and 18 practices that are revolutionary to get us primed to love ourselves. What's beautiful about what you just named, Amanda, is not only did this help you to step into your authentic identity, it helped you to conjure up a love that could match it. For those folks, listen, I need y'all to hear this. Universe, source, God, creator is constantly watching what we say and what we do and what we think.
Mm-hmm.
We can't dream our way or desire our way into having more than what we feel for ourselves. And so, if
Mm-hmm.
we have struggled in abusive relationships, if we've struggled in having imbalanced relationships with friends, if we've struggled with showing up for ourselves, the only pathway to have better relationships is starting with the one that we have with ourselves. And I love that you took this with gusto. Like you took this shit seriously. And,
Yes.
and I often say that play in life, but don't play with your life.
Oh,
Play in life, but don't play with your life. If you want better, you got to do better. And if you're not doing better, then you're probably not quite ready to access the better.
yeah.
Not just yet. And so I
Yeah.
just love that you've given us this gift of saying that, guys, you came out of this abuse and you sat with yourself with intention for a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were able to find a love that only could have come as a result of you loving yourself radically.
Oh yes. It's so looking back on it, it's so clear. Like the pebbles are laid, and it's a path
Mm,
that like totally makes sense from the outside looking in and looking back at my life story. But like when you're in it, it can feel like and like you don't know where you're going. But
mm,
I think constantly showing up and like those abusive relationships I had were so much more comfortable than being by myself because I actually had a self-hatred
mm,
that would allow that behavior and it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough.
mm.
I could do more, you know, and
Yes.
I think that was being reflected back to me and my partners. And I say this all the time. I don't believe that my partners are malicious people. I think that we were giving each other what we were asking for
Mm,
internally, spiritually, externally, whatever the case may be. I'm not innocent in our experiences that we had with each other. And I don't believe that they'll go off into the world and be like this with every person that they meet. But that was what I needed reflected back to me. And that was the environment that I was putting myself in and creating and co-creating. Right. And while
yes.
I was dating myself, it was like knee-jerk gut reaction of what do you want right now? What if you've never asked yourself what you want or have never been asked by somebody outside of you, what do you really want? Ask yourself, what do you want and what comes up? The thing is, acting came up for me, and everybody was
Mhm.
like, do you want to be rejected? Do you want to be hated? Do you want to fail? Do you want to land on you're already failing. Why would you sign up to be an actress of all
Mm,
the things, right? And I think it's just that I was like, well, I'm going to do the drama club. And then
mhm,
I was going to take an acting class that was outside of campus. And then I auditioned for a play. And then I auditioned for, and it was this baby step, the staircase up. But all of those iterations required me to reflect back at myself. But that deep reflection, the relationship to self, all of that was so required. And then coming to my husband, I remember I had emceed, I was emceeing hip hop shows in the city.
mhm,
And I started hosting my own events because I was doing fashion, I was modeling, I was in the music scene, I was emceeing hip hop shows, and then I started connecting with the b-boy community and I went back
mhm,
to school. And I realized that none of these people knew each other. And I
mm,
hosted my own event. It was called the Trifecta, and it was a fashion, music, and dance show. And I invited all my classmates from school to record video and
mhm.
borrowed the camera from my school to take pictures. And we had b-boys dancing in between the musical sets where there was designers walking around the musical sets. And that act was like so radical, but I worked myself to get there. And
Yeah.
after that, I was known in the community as somebody who hosts music events. So I was hosting
Mm,
hip hop shows. And my husband's second time seeing me out, he came to one of my shows.
mhm,
And I was like, oh my gosh, he's seeing me in my element. This is so weird. And he was like, you're so cool. And I was like,
mm,
you're so cool. But it wasn't, I could never see myself that way. And he could never
mhm,
see me that way if I couldn't see myself that way and be like,
mm.
yes, I'm an event curator for a hip hop artist in Detroit.
Period.
That could never be so if I had never taken the steps and followed the journey to get there, you know? And
Yes.
after meeting him, I became an international beauty queen. I
Mm,
grew wings. I became the Creative Fairy Godmother. I founded the
yes.
ReVamp. I've become an international world-changing leader
Mhm.
because he's not only does he support that vision I have for myself, but like we have an environment in which I can be that version of me without being judged, without being fearful. Well, I can be fearful, but supported in that fear.
Yeah.
And I tell him all the time, I'm like, I would never be this version of me without you, without this energy. I would have, I don't know where
Well, I mean, you would have, but I
differently.
would say that he wouldn't have been able to come in and love you if you weren't this version of yourself. And I
Yes.
think that is, and what I want to say, sis, is that, and you named this earlier, um, trusting the process. Who knew that that acting class that people were saying, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
What,
Literally.
like, what, why are you doing this? And you knew why, you knew you needed to do it. We don't have to know why we're entering in. All we have to do is enter when we get that nudge and understand it is all a part of the divine plan. It's
Hmm.
all a part of the divine plan to keep us moving one foot in front of the other to get us to bigger and better. And what you just described across your trajectory, You laid it out so beautifully. Your every single time it was bigger and better.
Mhm.
Every single time, all you had to do was have the courage to say yes to it.
Yes.
And in life, if we have the courage to say yes, we can be rest assured that we are going to be carried through that yes every single time. It may not be what we think it's going to be,
Mm-mm.
but it will be exactly what we need for what it is that we're working to build. And one thing I want to name really quickly as well as we get ready to wrap up is you owned that the abuse that you endured was not just about your abusers, it was about you too. And so oftentimes we externalize our suffering and we say it's somebody else's problem. If only you wouldn't treat me this way. If only you wouldn't say these things. If only you wouldn't do X, Y, and Z. The first time somebody mistreats us, it's on them. The second time they mistreat us and we allow it, it is on us too. Now,
Mhm.
what I want to name is there's no judgment, right? If people are listening out there and you're in a situation where you're being abused or anything like that, please know we have nothing but empathy for that. And we want you to get to a place of liberation. But
Mhm.
liberation only comes from an understanding that we too hold some responsibility. Because other people can't liberate us. We have to do the work of liberation for ourselves. So, girl, you know you coming back to this podcast because I
We
feel
can
like
talk
we have so many
forever.
things,
Oh
particularly
my
when the
God.
book comes out, right? But I
Yes.
know that you have, before we talk about what's upcoming, because you got some things that are on the
Yes.
horizon right now.
Yes.
Um, I want you to leave us with a message of inspiration. So,
Mm.
for people who are listening who may be struggling with their sense of worth, their relationship to their body, or their permission to experience joy, what message do you have for them?
Consider this your permission slip to do whatever the fuck you want. Um, it's literally like it's so big and so simple at the same time. Once you do that thing, that one tiny little thing that you feel nudged to do, to use your words, tomorrow, like if you feel nudged to go thrifting or to wear the pink top or to post a video online, whatever the nudge is, no matter how big or small, and you follow it, you realize that all these jail cells that we're creating for ourselves are fake. They're fake. It's not real. There's nothing, the only thing that's holding you back is the bars you're creating for yourself. And once you
Mm,
move through that first one, you're like, oh, it's just another door I gotta open. But you gotta open the door. But, start with those baby steps, start simple and like just realize that the world is magic if you
yes.
should accept the challenge. And on the flip side of the business, if you're in the business world and you're in the creative business space, I'm sharing the highlights on this story, the highlights of these big events that happen. But y'all don't know how many events I hosted that nobody came up to but myself.
Mm,
But the thing is, I never canceled on myself. I never delayed. I never didn't show up for the events that nobody else showed up for. And that's why I could get to the 5 people showing up. And that's why I could get to the 25, to the 50, to the 500. Because the events where nobody showed up, I still showed up for myself. And that's what you have to do is show up for yourself, and then everything else will unfold.
Queen, wait a minute. If I had a towel, I would just like be throwing it at you right now, like I'm in church. Okay. You just gave us a sermon. You just gave us about 8 sermons, honey. And I am so grateful for you, for your light, for the impact that you're having in the world, and for the fact that Source, Universe, God, Creator saw fit for us to come in each other's lives.
Amen.
Um, so thank you. Thank you for
Thank
just being
you.
your unique, beautiful, thriving self. You inspire all of us. Um, yeah, so talk to us about what's upcoming. I know that
Yes,
you got a lot in the pipeline right now. So
always.
How can the world be in service of what you got coming down the pipeline,
Ooh,
Queen?
and just know that if you're in service to the work that I'm doing, I'm in service 110% back.
Mm,
So, the Revamp Clothing Swap Festival, we do one every single quarter. Our next one is coming up in the spring. So, if you're interested in being a brand ambassador, taking your hand at modeling or photography, videography, content, I am creating a safe space in our brand ambassador program for you to express and try out your creative nudges. So we're accepting brand ambassadors right now. Our brand ambassadors are the face and the marketing of our content and will be published in our magazine, the
mm,
Swap magazine. So if you're not an on camera, behind the camera kind of person, but you're a writer or an author, we're also looking for submissions to our magazine talking about community, sustainability, fashion, and entertainment. So if you have a story, creative idea around that, we're looking for those. And then, of course, you can always come to the Revamp Clothing Swap Festival in April as a guest. I also do the Let's Glow show every single week on YouTube. And if you want just the random ramblings, I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Amanda Sweet Live, where we can play and talk all kinds of stuff.
I love that. So, y'all, you definitely got to check out these festivals. I will be there in January. I've actually signed on to be an ambassador myself in April. And so I want to personally encourage you to witness the magic unfolding. And also, hopefully, you will join me on that stage in April to be a fellow model, to support this amazing body of work that is transformational on so many levels. So, Amanda, thank you for being you. Thank you for inspiring us. Thank you for saying yes to yourself. And thank you so much for continuing to light the world on fire through your work.
I appreciate you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy that I know you. I love you so much.
Oh my gosh, I love you so much. And you already know we could talk forever, but you coming back,
I
okay?
can't wait.
Oh,
I'm
I
ready.
can't wait as well. So, audience, you heard it here. I am so grateful for you. We both want to share our deep gratitude for you tuning in today. I hope that the insights that we shared have opened new pathways towards your healing and your liberation. If either of us can assist you on your journey, please do not hesitate to reach out. And please make sure that you connect with Amanda in all the ways that she has invited us to do so. Also, be sure to tune in to the 100 plus additional episodes that we have on the Be Well Beautiful People podcast. And if you found value in today's episode, we would love for you to write us a review. And you can always contact us directly to share your thoughts at info@bewellbeautifulpeople.org. And if you haven't already picked up my memoir, Me Too, A Therapist's Journey to Heal, Find Liberation and Joy, it is out there on all major book platforms. And my new book, Love Will Liberate, is set to release on January 31st. And many of the things that Amanda and I talked about today will thematically show up in that book, including the things that interfere with our ability to be in loving connection with ourselves, which have to do, of course, with trauma and having non-secure attachments. So stay tuned for that. We're going to leave you with the words of Osho. To be creative means to be in love with life. You can be creative only if you love life enough that you want to enhance its beauty. You want to bring a little more music to it, a little more poetry to it, a little more dance to it. Until next time, beautiful people. Ashe.